Big news tonight on house prices in Canada's biggest city. They are up.
Toronto's housing market is anything but modest right now, jumping 33% from the same month last year.
Way up, 20% higher than this time last year.
Dream of home ownership has to be kept alive, and it has to be kept alive not just for people with means.
Prices skyrocketed again in March.
But for people who are seeking housing that is more modest in terms of its price.
This is no surprise if you own a home or want to own one. RBC says.
And if finding a home wasn't tough enough, affording one is even worse. Showed a 16.5% increase from November 2015.
That is now less affordable than it has been at any point in the last 8 years.
House prices in the city are growing out of control. March showed record-breaking price growth numbers at 33% year over year and has been showing no signs of slowing down. Governments are concerned that we're growing at an unhealthy rate, and there are a number of economic risks and affordability concerns for both buyers and renters in the marketplace. The fact is that incomes and wages are not moving in correlation with house price growth. And should interest rates start to move up again or a slowdown in the economy occurs, a large amount of Canadians may not be able to afford to pay their mortgages. And this could snowball into a nationwide recession. Governments are left scratching their heads, wondering what it'll take to cool the market. And on April 18, 2017, Mayor John Tory and Finance Ministers Bill Morneau and Charles Sousa announced the measures that they believe will improve housing affordability. The changes the government proposed are huge, and here are some of my thoughts on some of the biggest changes that they announced. This was a change that most real estate insiders saw coming. Recently, this tax was introduced in Vancouver, which placed a 15% land transfer tax on any foreign buyers wishing to buy real estate in Vancouver. The idea behind this tax was that there were too many foreign investors taking supply out of the market and pushing up prices to an unsustainable and unaffordable level. This change in Vancouver actually did have an impact on the market, but keep in mind that there are a lot more foreign investors there than there are in Toronto. I do think that in general, this is a good change and it's headed in the right direction. There's likely some merit to it, but I think this is more of a temporary measure that's going to cool the market and it's not going to have an incredibly long-lasting effect. Another problem with this tax is that if these foreign buyers are subject to 15% tax, they might not be buying up these pre-construction units, which might mean that it takes longer for construction to occur on some of these projects. Pre-sales for any new construction project is required to get anything off the ground, so this tax might discourage supply from entering the market. The city will implement a 1% vacant home tax on any property sitting vacant for more than 6 months. This is intended to provide more rental housing options for people and also encourage some speculators to sell their assets and add more supply to the market and thus improve affordability. This should free up a small supply of homes that may be sitting vacant back on the market, but once this supply of homes is absorbed, the effect of this tax is essentially completed, and I think this will have a negligible effect on the long-term values of real estate, but I'm not against it. The expansion of rent controls is the big one. The government wants to expand rent control for all private landlords across the city, no matter when your unit was built. I have mixed feelings about this one, but I believe that this policy will have a long-term negative impact for affordability. The change is good for renters because landlords are limited to the amounts that they can increase your rent, and existing renters will not be subject to these massive hikes anymore. This change is also good for people who never intend to move from their rental units, but inevitably people do have to move around. And when they do move around, they'll end up going back to having to pay market rents anyway. So who cares, right? That's still a pretty good deal for renters. But the problem is that Ontario was just starting to see more of these purpose-built, affordable housing units enter the market after decades of zero construction going on. And Even with the city offering these new tax incentives to developers to build more affordable housing, the rent control provisions are highly damaging to builders and commercial REITs' long-term bottom line. In my opinion, with this new rent control policy, we're going to see even less purpose-built rentals being constructed, more condos, and thus less affordable housing in the marketplace. So I think there are two key factors that we really need to have a discussion on that will have an effect on affordability. And the first one is increased intensification. Toronto has some very restrictive zoning bylaws that restrict development from occurring, and the process by which this occurs is a very long one from experience. Toronto is an amazing place to live if you can afford it, but land has become something that is owned only by the rich and the privileged. And generally, those who have it oppose urban intensification. We call these people NIMBYs, not in my backyarders. If the city wants to balance out housing prices, the supply of units needs to meet the demand. Toronto needs a quicker municipal approvals process to get things built and neighborhoods that will allow for more density, allowing multi-story buildings or stacked townhomes within existing neighborhoods. The next widely ignored topic in the media surrounding real estate is immigration. Canadians are very welcoming to immigrants of all nations, and I love that we are. But in 2016, there has been a record 175,000 people that migrated into this province from other countries and provinces. The problem is that we're not building fast enough to support this growth. There's a housing shortage of at least 10,000 units this year alone, and this means that there are multiple buyers looking at every house on sale on the market today. And this is what's leading to these huge bidding wars for most properties across the city. If the government wants to control the real estate market, they need to control the amount of people that are coming into the province and support it with more growth and more intensification initiatives. It's very funny and interesting seeing some politicians or city councillors have an open-door immigration policy allowing as many people as possible to come into other communities, but at the same time, these people are against intensification and allowing people to come into their communities. But then they expect the federal government to come on in and create a solution to their housing affordability problem. These guys just don't get it. I hope that gave you guys a good summary of just some of the new policy changes. If you agree or disagree with my comments, please join the conversation and comment below. And thank you everyone for listening. That's all for today's market update vlog. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram at lch.to. And as always, the perfect lifestyle is up to you.